10 things to teach a piano beginner in 10 lessons. Number 7. Play word games and teach dynamics and their gradual changes. Again, I'm not starting on the piano, but from my students' head, because if they get it here, they will transport this new or conscious information through their hands and into their fingers. Dynamics is not a new information, because who hasn't ever spoken loudly or softly or in 1,000 different ways in between? The only thing new is the terms, the names of those dynamics that we use in music, and the fact that we don't use our voice, but the piano keys and our fingers. So, I start by choosing a sentence. To make the lesson more interactive, I choose something that I already know about the student, some information, something that he or she likes or don't like, that usually they tell me, or something that I have observed, or I had an example of a student coming early Saturday morning in a class and stating after being introduced, "Hello, my name is John. I don't like morning classes." So I used it. It was of course funny and it worked. And then I start. I don't like morning classes. 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 And then I ask them, what did I do? Everybody understands, and they will explain in their own way. Don't be critical, just ask them to explain it in their own words and through their own imagination what it is that you did. And then you can start by explaining that this has to do with dynamics, which comes from the Greek word dynami, which means force, power, strength. And actually it means how much power, strength we use in our voice or with our fingers to either speak or play a musical instrument. And then you can start naming those terms. That in the beginning I used a very soft voice, almost as in whispering, which in music we call pianissimo. Then I spoke softly, piano. Then I spoke moderately soft, mezzo piano. Then moderately loud, mezzo forte. You can gradually also change the dynamic of your voice even when you're explaining those terms. Then I spoke forte, which means loudly, and then I spoke fortissimo, which means very loud. Then ask them to repeat, or maybe use another sentence, and then you can also ask them to reverse, in a reversed way, starting from fortissimo and ending in pianissimo. You can draw all the symbols so that they already know, they already code inside their brain what means what. So when they see pianissimo, they already give the order to their head when they gonna have to play a piece that they have to play very softly. And then you can move your pencil from different dynamics so that they use those dynamics in the sentence that they chose. A very important part here is to always pay attention as a teacher for the quality sound and explain that to your student. Fortissimo doesn't mean shouting or yelling, which in the beginning all the sentences will be like it's gonna be a blast for them. Fortissimo, they're gonna try and really scream. You have to be careful of that and explain to them fortissimo is not shouting, it's just using very, very much strength and power into your voice or onto the piano. You're not going to let your student hit the piano keys. And also with the opposite, the pianissimo. It's not like you're going to play or speak as if you're going to faint. And again, always try to put those dynamics in context. I will make a special tutorial for the quality of sound. So for now, let's move on to the piano. Dynamics on the piano. I'm choosing two opposite dynamics like forte and piano because still our beginner is not very much in control of the technique and of the hand position. That's why I'm just going to use the forte and the piano dynamic. And if you see that your student can make already the difference in his sound through his finger on those two dynamics, you can show him some mezzo dynamic, whether it's going to be mezzo forte or mezzo piano. And then always be careful to explain to your student that holding the right round position, I'll explain the hand positions and body positions on the piano in another tutorial, and as if the hand is always having constant energy and there is some kind of resistance. If my hand tries to move the hand of the student, it should not be easy for me. This is not a good energy. But this, okay, not putting that much strength, but there should be some kind of resistance, even on the piano dynamic. Otherwise, on fortissimo, your beginner student will play like a dead tree branch. Or if you ask them to play pianissimo, their wrist is gonna be too weak. The fingers are gonna fall as if they're not playing. They're just barely touching the keys. So now let's get started. A short, simple melody, first in forte. Be careful here at the end. It should be a little bit difficult because all the strength has to fall on the fifth finger, which is the weakest, and it has to hold the whole weight of the whole hand. Now, piano dynamic. And if you see that your student is already making a difference in sound between forte and piano, you can ask them to play some mezzo, either mezzo forte or mezzo piano, you choose. Let's try mezzo forte. When you show these exercises with the dynamics, draw for them the symbols in front of a paper or a music sheet, and then show them the different dynamics and ask them to play accordingly. Don't ask them, play for me softly or play for me loudly. They have to attach already a sign in their mind, the different symbols that symbolizes the correct amount of strength that they have to put into their fingers and onto the piano keys. Now let's move on to the gradual changes of dynamics. Again, give examples. First sentence. I saw him, he's hiding behind that bush. Then the second sentence. I'm so bored, I just want to lie down and do nothing. Then ask again your student what it is that I did. He's going to explain with his own words, using his own imagination. And then you explain to them, you name the things that you did with your dynamics. In the first sentence, I started in a soft voice and gradually made it louder. In music, we call this crescendo. You write it down for them so that they see it visually and they can recognize it later in the music score. And you can also explain to them that it derives from the word crescere, which means to grow. So actually you're growing the strength that you're using either in your voice or on the piano keys. And then diminuendo on my second sentence, which comes from the word diminish, to lessen, to make smaller. And in which case, in the sentence, what did I do with my voice? I started loudly and then gradually I softened my voice. Then you can ask your student to give their own examples. And don't forget, the examples that your own students give and their imagination is a well of gold for you, for your future lessons, for material for your future lessons. And now, let's see those changes on the piano. And now a short exercise for the gradual changes of dynamics. I will first show crescendo, and again try to show bigger differences in the dynamics that you start and then in the dynamic that you finish. I will start pianissimo and reach fortissimo, or piano and forte. Again, a short 4-bar melody, crescendo. And now the opposite, diminuendo, starting from forte and ending on piano, or fortissimo until pianissimo. And lastly, something very important that you can mention to your students with details or without is the word that we use for this instrument, piano. Why do we call it piano? That the full name is called pianoforte or fortepiano. And why is that? It's because we have the choice to either play with little strength and produce piano sound, or pressing a piano key loudly, forte, and producing a loud sound, or any other dynamics sounds in between those two. And that was not always the case with the ancestors of this instrument. You can have them also look it up on the internet and ask for some extra homework. Again, ask them to give you examples in everyday life, in real life, or through the human speech, or some situations, or some phenomena, or through the animal kingdom of fortissimo, pianissimo, and in which situation somebody would use crescendo or diminuendo. And the last tip to make this lesson more fun and make your student laugh is to choose sentences that have and attach to them dynamics that are reversing the meaning and the intention of those sentences. I'll give examples. First sentence: I want to tell you a secret. Ask your student to say this in a fortissimo manner. Then another one: be careful, you're gonna fall. Ask them to say this to you in pianissimo. Or, be quiet, your baby sister just fell asleep. Ask them to tell you this and making crescendo. Or, I want to go to that party so bad. Ask them to tell you this while making a diminuendo. Enjoy the games, and I'll see you on my next piano teaching tip video.